Hello and welcome back to RV DIY Newbie to Pro. We're back here in Texas, and I'll tell you what, it is stinking hot outside. It's about 95 with 70% humidity, which makes it about 110. And guess what's acting up? Believe it or not, our air conditioner. Can you imagine that? And it's not because of the heat. It's because there's something just going on in the system itself, and we're going to have to figure it out because we obviously need to have the air conditioner on in this temperature. What it's doing is our air conditioner has what they call a soft start on it, so it cycles when it starts. It'll click once, which starts a fan. It'll click second time, which starts another fan, and then the third time a compressor will kick in. And between cycles, from once the room gets up to temperature to when it drops down, needs to kick on again, there's at least a 3-minute delay on it. And that's meant to save the compressor from having too much back pressure and not starting correctly and putting strain on your electrical system. So what's happening here in our RV is that as soon as you turn the thermostat on, the unit clicks on once, the fan kicks in, and then it clicks on again, and another fan kicks in, but the compressor never kicks in. And then the next time it'll do it, it'll all kick on at the same time. So it's random, it's not cycling correctly. And this problem was originally above and beyond my pay grade. I just didn't know what was going on because I'm not a refrigeration, air conditioning, heating technician. So what I had to do was, I first started out by calling up a tech support line. We're members of the FMCA Association, and one of the benefits of that is that you can talk to somebody who's a mechanic or experienced person with RV repair, tell them what your problem is, and they will help you diagnose it and what your next steps can be, and if you can handle it or somebody else needs to handle it. So I called up our service tech, and they called me back because they were busy at the time, and I explained to them what was happening with the air conditioner. And what he told me was it could be one of two things. One, it could be a bad thermostat, which is on the wall over there. And the second thing is, he said, was it could be the control unit inside. He didn't feel that it was the compressor or the mechanics behind the air conditioner, because when it did work, it still put out cold air. So because of that, we felt it was electric. So I had two places to look. One, the thermostat, and two, the controller. The thermostat's easy, as I showed you. The controller wasn't so easy, and I had to ask him where that was. And the controller is actually inside the air conditioner, and I'll show you that. If you look up here, we have two units. This is the one in the main area, and if you take down your cover and you bring down where your filter is, which you want to make sure is clean, this is your controller box right here. So it's easy and accessible. However, there's a lot of wires going into it, and that's where the problem begins. So I chose to take the easy way out first, which was switch out the thermostat and see if it was the thermostat, because the thermostat runs around $70 or $80, where the controller is a little under $200. And so I didn't buy a thermostat. I actually acquired one through a service tech that I know. He loaned me one, and I just put it on to see if it would work. And it was the same symptoms, so that ruled out the thermostat. So I gave him back his loaner, and I put my old one back on the wall. So the next step then is to get a control unit, because that's where the problem has to be. So fortunately, I had the model number and serial number, and with Google, because we know everything on the internet's true, we can look up this model number, and Amazon, believe it or not, sells control units for these units. So I purchased one on Amazon, and it got here within 2 or 3 days. I think it was 3 days. And then when it comes in, we'll put it up and show you how to install it. Before you start working on the unit, you have to make sure you shut off the 115 volt power supply to it. So locate your circuit breaker box and turn that off. And then once that's off, you can start to disconnect the wires. Make sure, because there's a number of wires that go into the unit, that you take some tape and mark each wire as far as where it goes into the unit. And then once you've done that, you can disconnect the unit and pull out the control box and start connecting wires on the countertop for the connectors that are already on the old unit so that you can just plug it back in. What I'm doing here now is I'm removing the sensor that goes up onto the cooling fins to prevent freezing. And then we have to replace it with a new one because that comes with the unit. So I'm taking it and I'm placing it back up into the unit and it goes into the fins. Notice the wires are hanging down, the power is off to them, and you will see tape on each one. Now we're going to take the new unit and place it back up into where we pulled the old one out. Now that it's up, you need to start to reconnect the wires and fasten the unit back to the mounting bracket so that it can be secure while you're driving. This takes the most amount of time, and you have to be careful. Make sure you put the right connector into the right plug. And if you're not sure, before you take out the old unit, take photographs of it with your camera, and that'll help you decide where the wires go, because our memory's not as good as it used to be. Just remember, you're going to have power in, controller in, a sensor in, and then the ambient air temperature in too. When you're all done, you can put wire nuts back on the power control for the main power in, and you're going to tape up those connections with electrical tape so that you have a good connection and they won't come loose. Just make sure that the tape's on tight and you're not having any shortage going into the box so that it can't touch and short it out. Push all the wires back in carefully, and then you're going to tuck all the other wires around the unit in, and then we're going to mount it. This unit I had to take a drill and re-drill the holes to screw the sheet metal screws. Before you install the control unit inside the ceiling, make sure you've adjusted the micro mini switches to match the on-off positions of the unit you took out so that the unit's programmed correctly. It's time to turn the circuit breaker back on, power it up, and see how we did. Now that we have the unit installed and it's been tested and working wonderfully, we're back in the cold air again, which means life is good back here in Texas. And it was not a difficult procedure. It did take some time. It took about an hour to switch out once the part was here. And when I put it back in, we fired it up and it just worked beautifully. Just as a reminder too, while you're working on your air conditioner, and when you go by it once a month at least, take that filter down that I showed you, that black filter, and clean it and put it back, because good airflow is a good key to having a cool unit and not being hot. Once again, on the bottom of our screen, please hit the like button, and on the other side there's a subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our new videos coming out, because you never know what we're going to get into. Something's going to break, and this will be a good way to share my experience with you so you have the education on how to fix it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.